talk about communication. The Big Dive says that when we're communicating a message, the first 7% of our message, the retention rate, the study shows the retention rate by the audience is about 95% because they're in tune. They're with us. Okay? Then the last 3% of the message, the retention rate, what they found was actually 100%. And thinking about you sitting in an audience, or you sitting in a meeting, or you sitting, in a service, and somebody says, all right, to wrap this thing up, you're like, all right, I'm back, here we go. Right? All of a sudden, you mentally come back from the beach. Right? Or somebody says, all right, we got about 2 minutes left, we're coming, all right, I'm back. So now mentally you're in tune. And then what they found was the other 90% of the message, the retention was about 20 to 25%. So knowing that when we're communicating, how do we make sure, and Alan mentioned, his advice is, have a great, what'd you say? Have a great beginning?
Well, I tell pastors that there's 3 points to having a great sermon. Have a good opening, have a good closure, and keep the two as close together as you can.
Yes. So communicating on the margins, right? Really communicating on the margins and making sure that whatever I want my audience to retain, how am I making sure, or being intentional, that it shows up in that percentage? Okay, so let's go back to these, when I talked about CAP, clear line purpose, let's go back to expectations. And again, this is just for you, just looking in the mirror at what it is you do. When you write it down, you're that much more committed to this stuff, and it just becomes more clear. If you had your team in front of you, and you had to communicate your top 3 expectations, right? There's 100 that they have to do. I get it. But if I challenge you to think about what are the top 3 things that if we focus on, I'm confident that we will move the mission in the positive direction. So when we show up every single day, here are the 3 things that we need to make sure we're focused on, and these are my expectations of you on a daily basis. I know you could probably spend some time to assess this, but just what are those 3 things? Write those 3 things down really quick. What are those top 3 things that you would expect of your team every single day? There were 2 psychologists that did a study about working relationships, and after the research that they came out, and most of you might know this study, they came to find that relationships, working and outside of work, they really land into 4 buckets, okay? And it's called Johari's window. The 2 psychologists were Joe and Harry. They couldn't think of a better name, so they just married him. It's called Johari's window. You can look this up, okay? So the first bucket that they said relationships go is what they call the arena. And the arena is what's known to be true. You know it, I know it, we might not agree with it, we might not like it, but at least we what? We know it. We know it. It's out on the table, okay? This is where progress is permitted. People say all the time that communication permits progress. That's a fallacy. It's reliable communication that permits progress. I could communicate with you, but communicate a wrong message. Or if I'm communicating with my physician and I tell him or her that my knee's hurting, but it's really my back, they're going to prescribe. So it's not communication, it's reliable communication that permits progress. This is the only place that really permits progress in a working relationship, is when we know everything. We might not like it, we might not agree with it, but it's on the table. We know it, okay? Then there are blind spots. And blind spots are things that you can see in me, but I don't see them in myself. All right? So, for example, I might do things that maybe rub you the wrong way, or I might have certain ways that I interact, or certain things that I do, or how I handle stress, or how I show up, whatever those things are that you see, but I'm not necessarily, my self-awareness might not be as high. Okay? Or there might be things in the church that I just don't know are present. We did, and Jeff, you want to talk to this for a minute? Like, I don't mean to air dirty laundry, and it's not dirty laundry, but we came down and visited Champion Forest, and there might just have been a few blind spots. That's not a bad thing, but go ahead. You want to talk about that? Yeah, and what happened is we just grew, we minimized the blind spots and we grew the arena that allowed for progress to be permitted, because then you implemented certain things and you did certain things. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Are we creating environments where we do minimize the blind spots? Because the goal is to grow the arena, right? And so if we had really strong working, and I'm not saying you don't, but it might be over here. The line might be over here, and the blind spots, we're always going to have blind spots, but how do we minimize them? And that goes to creating kind of a shared experience, where people have what we call the 3 C's. They have the confidence, they have the comfort, and they have the competence to speak up. Where they feel, and that shared experience means I feel informed, I feel like I have a voice. Not to say that you have to come around the table and make every decision and hear everybody's ideas, but if you're going to solicit those ideas, we should not, sometimes organizations create what I call idea fatigue, where they get all these ideas, but then they just kind of go somewhere that, where'd they go? So I always say, if you're gonna allow that and you're gonna have people really feel like, and not feel like, but actually authentically have a voice, one of 3 things should happen when they speak up. 1, great idea, Alan, let's find ways to implement that. 2, good idea, but not in the cards right now. Like let's defer that, let's shelf that, let's revisit that maybe in 6 months or a year. Or 3, great idea, Chad, but never gonna happen. Like it's never gonna happen. Like I might not like it, but at least I know it. Versus kind of playing the guessing game, right? Because mentally I have to connect the dots. So how am I minimizing the blind spots? And again, these aren't bad things, but what am I doing to grow this arena? The next thing that they said is we live in facades. And facades are things that I know to be true, you might know to be true in your role, but you do everything you can to shelter everybody else. Like in front of the curtain, it's great, everything's fine. And then behind the curtain, it's like, how am I gonna do it? How am I gonna, like, you burden that. And this is the biggest stressors, because you have to live with this. You have to put this on your shoulders. And in front of the curtain, you have to rally the troops, and you have to be the leader, and you have to, but sometimes behind the curtain, it's like, where's my outlet? And I know a lot of you in the executive pastor role, there's a senior pastor, right? And again, I'm not knocking the senior pastor. Don't take this out of context. I'm just saying, sometimes it falls down, and then all of a sudden, all those ideas, we were talking about all these ideas, and that some of you are really good at that, the implementation. Jeff and I talked about that at coffee this morning, the implementer. But a lot of times it's like, I got it, yep, I'll do it, yep, I'll do it, yep, I'll do it, yep. And all of a sudden, that burden continues to bear. So what are we doing to make sure that we're minimizing? And I'm not talking about airing dirty laundry or telling, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about how can we make sure that, I always say that I'm comfortable enough to tell you that half the time, I'm not for sure what we're gonna do. I'm confident enough to tell you, we'll figure it out. How can I live, how can I walk together with people in a way that doesn't necessarily scare them? How can I minimize those facades, right? And then there's unknowns. Unknowns are things that I don't know to be true, you don't know to be true. As we grow, we learn. We're always growing, we're always learning until, the good Lord says it's our time, but we're always growing. So in a really, really strong culture, it does look something like this. And I apologize for my arts, but the unknowns are something we can't control, because it's just organically, that's just as life unfolds, we learn certain things, right? But how do we authentically are able to grow that arena where we can permit progress? And that's really creating that shared experience where people have the confidence, comfort, and competence to put things out there and really feel like we're working and walking together. Let me give you an example of, Mike, do you have a bad back? I'm looking at you. Can I borrow you for a second? Sure. Come up here. Let's give Mike a little bit of appreciation. Okay? Mike, let's go to that door. I know we're in a small room here.
Trust ball, please no.
What?
Trust ball?
No, nothing like that. I just want to see how many paces it is from, let's go right here to like the beginning of that curtain.
Got it.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's go.
Pace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Half a 7 is 3.5. Let's find the middle here. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, about a half. Okay. Now we don't have a lot of room. Jeff, I'm going to ask you if you could stand up, please, and move that chair. No, you're fine, Ellis. You're fine. You're good. Just move that chair. And Alan, just move in your elbow just a little bit so you're not, okay. Yeah, stand over here and face me. Okay. All right, we don't have a lot of room, but put your hands up. Here you go, hands up. Come on. Oh. God, you're stronger than what I thought. Hold on, Mikey. Hold on. Stay right there. You're all right. Hold on. Here we go. Come on, hands up. God. Okay, don't move. First of all, let's give Mike a little bit of appreciation. I'm out of breath. I got to catch my breath. Hold on. Okay. Did I ever, stay right there, you're good. Did I ever explain the rules?
No.
This is interesting. When Mike was walking with me, did he ever resist? No. Not one time. He counted 7 paces. Then he counted 3.5. And he might have been thinking in his head, what am I doing? Why are we doing this?
That's true.
But he never resisted. Immediately, when I started pushing, what did he do? Did I have to tell him to?
No.
There's something magical when people feel like we are pushing, mentally or physically, they will, I don't even have to tell them, they will automatically what? Push back. So how am I building the confidence, the competence, and the comfort for people to understand that we're actually trying to what? Walk together versus me feeling like I'm forcing and always, come here for a second, Mike.
You got it.
Look at that. See that? See how easy that was? Let's give Mike a little bit of appreciation. Let's give Mike a little bit of appreciation. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. That truly, and again, don't take this out of, there's nothing absolute. As long as we are on this earth, there's one thing absolute, but there's nothing what we do every day. We're humans. We're flawed. There's nothing absolute. But how do I create an environment where when we're trying to drive the mission, whatever that mission is, how do I get more people walking with me versus me feeling that I am just always pressing and pushing? That's the key that helps grow that arena, that helps create a shared experience. And if people don't want to walk, no problem. There might be a different bus. But me as a leader have to bring that up, okay? This goes back to these expectations that I said. So don't get mad at me. The 3 expectations that you wrote down, if we were to call somebody on your team right now, put them on speakerphone, put them in the middle of this and say, what are the top 3 expectations that your leader has of you every single day? Would they be able to, not indictment, would they be able to say exactly what you wrote down? And if not, it's not a gig. It just means we all have work to do. I don't know if I would be willing to take that bet myself. That's something that we work on every single, no, Charlie, keep your hand down. I know we can go there. Okay? So that's one that if it's a blind spot for me, how do I not make it a facade and how do I put it in the arena? And as a leader, I can go back and go, listen, and again, this is just my humility. I always say, listen, I'm sure I'll fall on the sword for this one. I don't know if I've done a good enough job to make sure that everybody in here is crystal clear on the 3. There's a lot of things I expect of you guys. We're moving in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of projects that we're working. I know you're traveling all over the globe. At the end of the day, there are 3 things that if we do these 3 things, I'm confident that we'll be successful and we'll create those I call win-win-win relationships. It's got to be a win for our clients. It's got to be a win for the team. If those 2 things happen, I win. Okay? That's just me. Number 1, bad news needs to travel fast. Number 2, this is just mine. Bad news needs to travel fast. Number 2, the camera is always on. And number 3, we always should be working on our craft. Let me double click on those. If you were my team, and they've heard this message 1,000 times, but I never lose the opportunity to communicate this. Let me double click on that. Number 1, bad news. There are things that are happening in a lot of different projects. You're traveling a lot of different ways. If there is something that happens on site, it's important that gets back to headquarters. Not to say that I would try to shove it on the rug, but I can deal with it if I know. If I hear it from a client, now we're going to have challenges. I need to hear it first. That way I can get ahead of it and we can manage it. Again, I'm not saying we're going to condone it. But things happen. Number 2, the camera's always on. Every time we walk onto a client, we have to realize somebody is evaluating us. And there are people that want to see us succeed and there are people that want to see us fail. Never give them an opportunity to say, see, I told you that group was just full of BS. Or I told you that group was, they were fake. Or I told you that. We have to authentically show up. And number 3, we always have to be working on our craft. We have never arrived, and that's something that if you work underneath our umbrella, that's something that's just a must-have. It's a non-negotiable. You're doing something every single day to continuously hone your craft and get better at what we do so we can serve and drive impact and make sure we're moving clients in the right direction. They win, you win, I win. And that's what we want to do. So again, 3 things. There's a lot. Appreciate it. Bad news travels what? Fast. The camera's always on. And make sure we're always working on our craft. We do those things, and we're going to be successful no matter what comes at us. You guys ready to go? Boom, bam. Those 3 things. So there's an I'm not saying, but you know, if somebody wants to call their people or text them right now and be like, hey, what are the top 3 expectations? They'll tell you. They'll tell you if they're on the mark or if they're not. And if they're not, it's not a bad thing. It just means I, as a leader, have an opportunity to I call it center the needle. Let's center the needle. Let's just center the needle. Let's get back on pack. Make sense? Okay. All right. So that's that. I'm just trying to cover a few more things. The last thing, that 3x3, that's what you just experienced, which I'm sure as pastors, you guys do this all the time, the opening. But how I always want to communicate is I always want to headline, detail, and then recap. And my headlines and recaps are the exact same things. Bad news travels fast. Camera's always on. We need to work on our craft. Bad news travels fast. Camera's always on. So that's kind of we call it a 3x3, which again, I don't have a lot of time. This is what we teach leaders. This is all the things that we do. And I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch either. I'm not you just understand you. So we headline it. We headline. Then we go, think about this, Alan. Let me do this. Give me a second. So I want a headline, and then I want to take all 3, and I want to provide some detail behind them. And then when I recap, it's basically a bookend. It's a rinse and repeat. Yeah, we use this for meetings. We use it for presentations. Again, that's the formula. Now the 3 that's arbitrary. The first 3. It could be a 2x3. Hey, there's 2 things. I'm going to cover a lot. The 2 things I really want you to walk away with. Might be 4 things. Shouldn't be 20, right? But it should be, within the 5. So that's just again a formula that people can use. So boom, boom, boom. Then you can go into some details with it, and then recap it by coming down for landing. Okay. One more thing. Let me go back to GCGs for a minute. Charlie mentioned something that I think we can elevate, and I just want. I really. This is again a mirror. And all of you are in different parts of your career. All of you are in different parts. I had a chance to spend some time with Alan before. I know he's kind of transitioning out of where he was at, doing some different things, moving on to some things that are energy for him. He really enjoys doing those types of things. So I'm not trying to guess where you're at. Only you know where you're at. But I want you to just jot down a few notes as I ask you these questions, okay? So wherever you're at in your role, in your career, in your church, what are some ways that you want to continue to grow? Just personally, selfishly. Just write that down. What are some ways that you want to continuously grow? And growth might be, for you, it might be a succession plan, right? Making sure that there's, maybe your growth edge is making sure that there's a bench behind you. It doesn't have to be specifically for you. It might be for your team. It might be for other people. But just thinking about in what ways do you want to grow? Okay, again, work in progress, but when you write it down, you become connected to it. So what are some ways you want to grow? What are some, just selfishly, some things that you want to continuously make sure that you're growing in? Number 2 is, if you were kind of put on the spot, how do you specifically, not your team, not your supporting cast, how do you specifically contribute to the mission? How do you add the value? So like we were talking, you're the implementer, right? I mean, I'm not trying to put it in, I'm just trying to give you some context. So every day, how do you show up and how do you really contribute? And then the last one is, again, work in progress. We can always work through this, but the last thing is let's just identify one. What's one goal that you have, say in the next quarter or say in the next month, whatever that is, kind of keep it kind of in a short time frame. What's one goal you have for either now you can go floodlight, you can go yourself, your team, your church, the external, your community, whatever that meant. What's one goal that you're focused on that you really want to make sure moves in the right direction? What would that be? Perfect. Now here's what I'm going to ask you to do. When we leave here, this meeting is not over until you, and don't do this, I'm playing this out, I'm just showing you how this could work, okay? If this was my team, I would say this meeting is not over. Once we exit this room, this meeting is not over until you sit down. You can use your phone, you can go to your computer, whatever, until you email me those 3 things. I need those 3 things in my inbox within 10 minutes of this meeting's over. Okay, time. How long did that exercise take? A few minutes, right? Less than 5. Okay, now, if you were my team and you emailed me that, now what do I have?
Arena. You have a bigger arena.
I have a bigger arena, and now I have specific conversations that I can have with each team member that's real, authentic, and relevant, not to me, to them. And I can, if I align to it, I can help them fulfill that. If I don't think they're on the right track, I can course correct. You're going to talk, I know Jeff's going to talk about tomorrow about there's sometimes that not every conversation that goes the way we want. He calls it kind of the last 10%, which he'll talk about more. There might be times where I'm like, hey, I got your GCGs the other day. I really appreciate that. The goal that you mentioned, let's talk about that. Where did that come, like how did that come about? I'm curious on where your head is on that particular goal. If I don't agree with it, right, I can realign, I can reassess, I can recenter. But now I have so much, and as in your role, if I'm you, leverage, not manipulation, leverage is my best friend. It's like weight distribution. I can't carry everything. I can leverage, there's only 3 things I can leverage. I can leverage my budget, I can leverage my resources, and I can leverage people to do the things that I need to do to make sure that there's weight distribution so not everything falls back on me, right? If I have those conversations. Now, let me go back to you. What's the benefit? That's the benefit to me of a GCG conversation. What's the benefit? And you just went through it quickly. I would probably put a little bit more time and thought into this. But what's the benefit to you specifically to have somebody force, for lack of a better term, you to really think about those GCGs? What does that do for you personally? Let me ask you that. When you're kind of, I don't think you probably woke up and thought about your GCGs this morning. What does that do when somebody intentionally challenges you to think about your GCGs? What does it do?
It helps me with my daily 3-pack.
Helps you with your daily 3-pack. What else?
Clarity on goals.
Clarity. Being intentional about what, okay, so if those are your GCGs, what are we doing every single day? It's easier to audit now, right? It's easier to, are the things that we're doing taking us to Austin? Or are they taking us another, because you could be on the right road going the wrong way and not know it if you don't know, not clarity on the direction that you want to go.
Helps you prioritize.
Helps you prioritize. Again, these are, to me, they're small shifts that could make big differences. And I sat down with Jeff, and Jeff said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, when it's over, you'll know and I'll know. I have no idea. I just wanted to try to bring some value to the group. I could go on forever. But let me kind of just, we're coming down for a landing. So I got 100% of your attention. I know that right now. Number 1 is, I had 2 goals. I wanted to have some fun. You guys have some fun? Yeah. Number 2, you can be 100% honest. Did anybody think it, and you can raise your hand, did anybody think it was a complete waste? Okay, so hopefully we all walked away with something. Here's how I'm going to ask you to kind of summarize this just for you in your notes. I'm going to ask you to write something down. I'm going to ask you to share it in just a minute, and then we'll kind of come down for landing as we go. Think about, hopefully there were multiple light bulbs. But what is that one thing? Here's where I want you to go. What is that one idea? Or that something that maybe I didn't say, maybe you heard from your partner or somebody else in the conversation. What is that one idea that you're going to take away and that you're going to commit to actually implement? And if you believe that if I do that, I can impact in a positive way what I'm trying to do in my role and the results I'm trying to drive, write that down. What is that one thing? It might be different for everybody. What's that one thing that you will not only was a good idea, but you'll make it an I did? Idea to I did. Okay, what's that action? Take a second and write that down. I'll end with this. Jeff, thank you. Alan, thank you for the opportunity. Clint, thank you for the introduction. And thank you for everybody for listening. In 2004, I had the opportunity to give a big talk in Atlanta, Georgia at the Marriott Marquis for Bank of America. And again, we do large companies, small companies. And the talk was on comfort zones. And the SVP of that particular, there's about 2,500 people in the audience, huge production, jumbotrons, 5 camera shoots. I mean, it was just a huge production. And your intro was a video. That's what they did. So the SVP came to me and said, if you're going to talk to my team about comfort zones, I want you to do something outside your comfort zone. We'll film it, and that'll be your introduction. So I went back and I talked to Sarah, and we kind of made this list of things that are outside my comfort zone, and we decided to find that I'm not a big fan of jumping out of airplanes. So I'll go skydiving. That'll be my That'll be my kind of my intro video. So I found a guy, scoured the country, found a guy in Jacksonville, Florida, who at the time had logged, you have a log jump if you've ever jumped out of airplanes, you have a log book, had logged over 7,500 jumps. And he was the gentleman, take politics out of this right now, but he was the gentleman that when George Bush Sr. jumped on his 80th birthday, he was the one that trained George Bush Sr. I said, if it's good enough for a president, I'll roll the dice, okay? So went down to Jacksonville, Florida, went to an FBO outside of Jacksonville on a Sunday. Never forget it, didn't do a lot of homework, flew down there and met him on the tarmac. And I said, all right, what are my options? He said, well, we can get this done in about 30 minutes. And I said, well, tell me, what does that mean? He said, we'll go tandem. And I said, well, what's tandem? And he said, well, we'll get strapped up, we'll go together, get in this airplane, go up 14,000 feet, we'll jump. They have a camera crew, they had a 3-camera shoot, they had a camera crew there ready that was gonna film it. We'll jump, and you just enjoy the ride, and I'll take care of everything and make sure you smile for the cameras. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know if that's too far. I don't know if that's gonna really, give the intro, the splash that I wanna give. I said, what's another option? He said, well, another option is you can take a couple preliminary jumps. By Wednesday, you'll be ready to put the parachute on. Get in the airplane, go up 14,000 feet, jump by yourself. You enjoy the ride, pull your ripcord when you're ready. And I thought, well, that might be too far outside. Is there another one? He said, yeah, you can go static line. And I said, okay, what's static line? He said, well, you can take a 6-hour course today. If the weather's nice tomorrow morning around 10 a.m., you'll be able to get in that airplane, and your ripcord will be tied to the airplane. So instead of 14,000 feet, you go 3,500 feet. And you jump out of the airplane, and then the plane will pop your chute for you. I said, let's go with that one. So took a 6-hour course, went to bed that night, got up Monday morning, 10 a.m. We're back at that FBO. We got the parachute on, helmet. Why you have a helmet? Who knows why? Signed all the death things. Got into a 1951 Cessna. If you've ever done this as a civilian, you probably know. Got into a 1951 Cessna, and there's no seats in these airplanes. It's just there's one seat for the pilot. That's it. Everybody else is on the floorboard. So myself, the 3 camera guys, and the instructor, we all climb in and go on the floorboard. The door doesn't even shut on this 1951 Cessna. It's almost like a twist tie type. I would not have jumped in this airplane if I didn't have a parachute on. I didn't know if it's going to get up in the air. So we take off, and you have an altimeter on your wrist. They put an altimeter to tell you how high you're going. We get to 1,000 feet. I think we're 10 miles in the air. I mean, all these thoughts are going through my mind. What are you doing? Start seeing clouds. Before I know it, pilot goes like this. We're at 3,500. Door flies open, okay? I don't remember a lot about the 6 hours, but I remember the 4 commands. He said, you got to pay attention to the 4 commands. So the first command is sit out. So you sit out, and your feet are kind of dangling outside the airplane just like this. The next command is climb. So then you actually climb out on the wing of the airplane. I don't know how fast the 1951 Cessna goes, but it feels, I mean, the wind's in your face. You don't know. The next command is hang. So then you let your feet go, and now you're hanging like this, and the last command is fly. And he said, when I say fly, this is the second thing I remember about the 6 hours. He says, when I say fly, it's life or death to hold your position, because the airplane is pulling your ripcord. Your chute is going to come out. And if you twist or if you flip, you're going to get wrapped up in that chute. So you have to hold your position. I remember the night before I slept with my feet on the bed, head on a pillow. I slept like this. I was like, I wanted to be. So he says fly. I remember nothing until my chute popped, which was maybe 3 seconds. Felt like 3 hours. Chute pops, and if you've ever done it, there's a smaller chute called a slider. Okay, check your slider, check your lines. If those are fine, your big canopy's fine. Check my lines, check my slider, fine. And I have a one-way radio on my chest. By the time the instructor had said fly, and all that had happened, he had already jumped out of the airplane. He's on the ground. He's talking to me through a one-way radio. Flare left, flare right, enjoy, smile for the cameras, make sure you're looking around, enjoy the skyline. Come down for landing. I missed my landing zone by 250 yards. I land on an active runway. Not good, okay? Not good, not good. So I roll up my chute. I go back to the landing zone. My first question is, how is my exit? Because I want to look good on this camera, for Bank of America. I want to look good. He said, Chad, you got to watch the film. And this is how it was. Instead of kind of just being so graceful, it looks like you're trying to run back into the airplane. So I was like this when I fell. So here comes the camera guys, and they go, hey, we had an issue. And I said, what's the issue? And they said, 2 out of the 3 cameras didn't work. And I thought they were just, they always do this. I thought they were just joking. Right? No, we have one angle, but 2 of the 3 cameras didn't work. So I said, what are my options? I said, well, you can do one angle or we can go again. So I elected to go again. I elected to go into a little hangar. And if you've ever watched somebody pack a parachute, you don't really want to put those things. I mean, they just packed it back into the sack. I'm like, this is what we do. So we packed it back in, got in that whole thing, repeated the whole thing. Again, the second time it did work. I wasn't going to jump. I have a logbook with 2 jumps. Okay, I wasn't going to do it a third time. That it worked the time. And I tell you that as I kind of look at your space, the faith and the mission never stops. And are there days in your world where the camera doesn't work? Are there days where it just sometimes doesn't work, right? But I think, obviously, as you mentioned, everybody around this table was called, and there are times where we have to challenge ourselves and challenge our teams to go back in that hangar, to pack that chute, to put it back on our back, to get back in the Cessna and go up and jump again because of the larger mission. And I think when you take all the noise that comes out of it, you stay focused, and I know I'm preaching, I know this is the choir here, but you stay focused on that. And it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier to get through it.